$250. Yeah, me too. I was surprised to see the price of this 3D printed Nerf blaster. Despite the rave reviews, I needed to see for myself whether this blaster could check off 5 key requirements I have. Determining whether this blaster is worth your money or not will depend on how many green check marks I can give it. And the results were absolutely not what I was expecting. Requirement 1, it had to be easy to build. This is the Silly Butts Lever Action Blaster, aka the Slab, printed and provided to me by Out of Darts. There are 2 different versions of this blaster. There's the $250 fully assembled version, and the version that was gifted to me, the $185 do-it-yourself kit. It was actually my first time assembling a 3D printed Nerf blaster, so I wanted the kit and the instructions to be as clear as possible. And this is where I got lulled into a false sense of security. The kit itself was nicely printed and packaged. The instructional video by Silly Butts was shockingly easy to follow. Mind you, there were a couple of times where I got confounded, but I just kept rewatching and I eventually got it. It took me approximately 3, but probably 4 hours to build this thing, and it was more fun than I thought. Then the excitement was killed when it came time to actually test firing the blaster. It just didn't work. Darts were getting jammed, the prime wasn't working, the trigger wasn't working. I spent more hours troubleshooting the slab than actually building it. Every solution to a problem birthed a new problem, and at some point I was ready to just give up on this whole project. But after getting help from 3 different sources, I was finally able to get the slab functioning. Looking back on it now, the solutions themselves weren't hard to implement. It was just difficult figuring out what the problem was and which solutions would actually work. I'm guessing that most other customers didn't have the same amount of issues as me when building this, and especially if you got the pre-assembled blaster, but I just want to be transparent that this was the experience that I had. This leaves me in a weird spot because people have had flawless experiences with building this blaster, but I haven't. So right now I'm going to say that for requirement 1, I can only give it a half check mark. So while I was testing out the slab, I also partnered with MyHeritage to test out my DNA. I've always wondered if I'm like related to the Nerf dart on the family tree. MyHeritage was like, okay, that's weird, but here's a DNA testing kit. And it was a really easy process. Essentially, they just took my spit and instead of selling it on the black market, like they should have done, they securely analyzed my DNA in their labs to build my family tree. And then this happened. I got back my DNA results. I haven't looked at them yet. We're gonna do that right now. What? What? What the hell? I'm freaking international. I thought it was mainly Chinese and Japanese. The Scandinavian, that's totally unexpected. I don't know where the hell that came from. I mean, that's pretty neat. Like, I wouldn't have figured out any of this by myself. You just have this map so you can get a general idea of where your ancestors are from. I even found some new living humans that could be related to me. You can learn about your family history by getting a DNA kit using my link below, and you can steal my coupon code in the description for free shipping too. Now back to the Nerf content. Luckily, I think the problems that I encountered with the slab can be avoided for future slab customers, and I'll talk more about that in the conclusion of this video. Requirement 2, the slab has to be ergonomic. It's a very long blaster, and if it's hard to wield, well, that's a really big red flag. Luckily, thanks to the design by Silly Butts and the specific build choices from Out of Darts, there's really not much to complain about here. If designed poorly, the extreme angle of this handle could really screw up your wrist, but in this case, I don't even think about it because it's just so ergonomic. The stock is solid and curved. The texture and the groove on the front grip are nice, but I still find my hand slips way too often when using this blaster. Personally, I think a vertical grip would better suit me. No issues with the mag well or the mag release. Everything is just super snappy. The slab is big and I have a smaller frame, so for me it's hitting the edge of what's comfortable. But for like the 97% of the population with a larger frame than me, you will better enjoy the ergonomics of the slab. So let's give requirement 2 a big fat check mark. Requirement 3, the slab's lever action system has to be flawless. Its main selling point and the reason people love the slab is because of its lever action priming system. There are barely any lever action Nerf blasters in existence, let alone 3D printed ones. And the slab's unique design puts lever action on the frickin' map. I think I installed a 130 FPS spring in here, but despite that, the priming motion is unbelievably smooth and light to the point that I forget I'm using a high performance blaster. The physics of the lever action priming system is so genius because it makes it so that you're not fighting against the full tension of the spring, but you still get all the full benefits of the spring and its power. Because of the system, you can fire the blaster repeatedly without getting as exhausted as you might think. And the sigma energy that's felt from priming this blaster is a different dose of satisfaction. I will note that repeated back-to-back firing of this blaster might get the back of your hand sore after hitting against this priming handle a lot, but obviously you're not going to be using this blaster in this way frequently. For requirement 3, heck yeah, this lever action system is awesome, so we gotta give it a green check mark. Requirement 4, it's a no-brainer, the slab needs to have consistent and solid performance, especially at its price point. Unfortunately, my testing revealed a lot of things I was hoping to avoid. For average velocity, the blaster, alongside what I believe is the 130 FPS spring installed, was getting an average of 128 feet per second. So that's fine, but what worried me was how inconsistent the numbers were. Sometimes shots of 140 FPS were followed by shots of 110 FPS, and firing the slab downrange showed that same inconsistency. I just want to make a note that the footage here was before I was able to fully fix the slab, but it was still in good enough working condition that I could fire some darts downrange. I was aiming for the white chair, yet the dart flight patterns were unpredictable to say the least. I don't know if other people are seeing similar performance issues as well. I like to think that it could be faulty just due to the way that I built it, but either way, this isn't ideal. Again, like my final decision for requirement 1, I'm struggling to weigh my own experience with the more positive experiences that other people have. So for now, I'm giving requirement 4 a half check mark. Requirement 5, the slab has to be a not ripoff. Without tax or shipping factored in, from Autodart's website, you can get the fully assembled blaster for $250 USD or the DIY kit for $185 USD. To me, it seems pretty comparable to other high-performance 3D printed Nerf blasters on the market.
I'm not saying you can't find more affordable, powerful blasters than the slab, but I'm also taking into account that this is one of the few that have a lever action priming system that you might be seeking.
Therefore, requirement 5 gets a check mark. Finally, is the slab worth your money? Going into this review, I had 5 key requirements that the slab needed to meet. In total, 3 requirements got their check marks of approval, but 2 of them could only get half points. Technically, that's a passing grade, but let's think on this. Building this blaster was fun until it wasn't, and even in fully functional form, it's still spitting out inconsistent performance. Don't get me wrong, this blaster is super fun to use, but it's just totally being overshadowed by those 2 things. Purely based off my own experience with building the slab, I can't honestly recommend this kit to anyone if I knew that they were going to go through the exact same difficulties that I did. And mind you, this was sent to me for free as a review sample, so if I had my own money on the line and I bought this kit, I would be a lot more frustrated. But on the positive side, I think the chances of someone encountering the exact same frustrations as me while building this will be a lot lower, because Autodarts is going to be releasing their own tutorial build guide. I've given Autodarts my feedback about this kit, and they should be addressing those in this video, as well as any other tips and tricks that currently aren't in any videos online. I'd also like to believe that if I reviewed a fully assembled version of the slab instead, my review would be a lot more positive. But for now, I'll leave it there. You can check out my other 3D printed Nerf blaster reviews on the screen. And thanks again to Luke and the team at Autodarts for sending me the slab.